After yesterday's loss against Spurs to Man United at home, 3-0, things are looking pretty tough for Eric Ten Hag and his players. Ten Hag seems to be on the verge of leaving the club or getting sacked either ways, because there's a lot of things which is going off the pitch and on the pitch, and it doesn't seem like Ten Hag has been doing too well in these past few games. For instance, yesterday's game was a horrible game. I couldn't even watch the entire game after the red card. I mean, the booking against Bruno Fernandes, of course, it's another controversial thing. He slipped and he got his boot up on Madison's leg. And from what I heard, Madison was the one who told Bruno that wasn't meant to be a red, it was a yellow. And there's another thing. In the beginning of the season, I really thought that United might turn things around because of the players that they've signed. The number of players that they've gotten this season, it's like they're trying to build a team which was, meant to challenge, not challenge for the title, but at least challenge for a couple of trophies. Especially the Europa League, the cup games. It's United shouldn't be a team that should be competing for the cups or anything. They're a type of team which should be trying to win the league. With the players we've got, let's track back a little and try to see what and how Ten Hag has made the progress of United that has kind of succeeded maybe this entire season, the last season. So, all right, the first manager after Sir Alex was, of course, David Moyes. David Moyes wasn't really a great manager. He got what, seventh on the league. Wasn't really that amazing. Wasn't that great. Was hated by the fans a lot after the his first season. Got sacked. After that came in Louis Van Gaal. Kind of similar. I didn't really like his game a lot. Didn't really suit the United fundamentals. Wasn't really liked by the board. He was, but again, it's the Glazers. Couldn't really say or do anything about it. And then we had Jose Mourinho, again, someone who wasn't really actually liked by the board. That's why he was sacked. Although I would say Mourinho was someone who should have stayed at the club, maybe enhance the club a little bit. But of course, we had to move things around because the dressing room had become really sour. The players and the managers couldn't really cope up with them, and it's something which is very similar that's being seen with Eric Ten Hag as well as his players. Something isn't working with Ten Hag. It's just all speculation. It's not entirely true, of course. This is just my point of view towards the speculation of the game, and I just feel like Ten Hag maybe could have lost the dressing room with himself and the players. Uh, there's an idea between the players and the managers that this is what we want to do, this is how we want to progress towards the season. They've gotten good players as well. Let's first talk about the previous managers, then we'll get back to that in a bit. So, talking about Jose, he did not have the right players that he needed to fit into the team, play according to his tactics. Of course, a lot of people call him parking the bus and everything, but of course, we know it's not just parking the bus. He had a lot of good moments. I remember that Pogba brace against City, the 3-2 victory. Those games were something pretty magical, of course, and the winning Europa League game, of course, that was all amazing. But of course, didn't work out well with the board, so he had to be sacked. After that came in the caretaker Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So this is where the most important part comes in. See, managers like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who are club legends, of course, they're backed by the fans, backed by the board. At that time, the Glazers, of course, he was someone who was influential, you could say. Before the coming of Ronaldo, of course. Solskjaer did have a mindset of playing at United, but again, the tactics just weren't there. I didn't see it personally, and I've heard a lot of these talks going around on media that that Ten Hag is lost the dressing room with the players as well, and there's a chance he might get sacked after yesterday's game. See, in all honesty, there needs to be a vision, which United obviously do have. They've gotten a new staff. They've got good new staff in the board. They've got a new medical team, a new set piece coach. They've got everything that they need to their disposal. And of course, it's a really great whatever they're doing. It's amazing. Um, but you have to look at the implementation. I mean, the way how United have put an idea on the table, how Ineos, the new owners, they've put a table that this is what we want. We have a blueprint to move forward towards what we want to do in the campaign of the entire season. Whether it's winning cups, it's winning major trophies, getting somewhere in Europe, making the top four, whatever it is. They've implemented that thing with the players as well. They've bought in players specifically for that. And let's just have a look at Ten Hag's first season. Ten Hag's first season. Okay, so that was a time where they had the new caretaking coach, or sorry, interim coach, Ralph Ragnick. Of course, Ralph Ragnick was someone. Um, I don't really have much to say about him. I mean, all of these coaches just had one thing in mind, and it was very similar, that they were to the board like, hey, there's an issue that it doesn't look really nice for your club. I mean, there's a lot of issues that's taking place internally and externally. That's of course within the board and with the players. Of course, there's players who are on big wages. They're expected to do a lot more than their uh, of course not more than what they're paid for, but they're expected to do a lot with those wages given in hand. And with those wages given and the transfer fees that we're putting into these players, it's put a lot of pressure on these players. Specifically, talking about players like Bruno Fernandes, he's excelled definitely. I mean, he's been our best signing since Sir Alex Ferguson, I feel like. And players like Casemiro, David De Gea, who recently left last season, they were on higher wages. They had a lot to do with the wages that they were given, and a lot more players. Varane, Anthony Martial, all of these players, they didn't. I mean, Varane is a bit controversial, injured a lot. Of course, it doesn't have to do anything with the fitness and all. But coming back to the point, Eric Ten Hag and his first season, of course. When there was a new board, when there was a new management, of course, they needed players according to their needs. I mean, firstly, talking about Ten Hag's tactics, it's something which I don't completely agree with, or don't completely see eye to eye with anymore. I mean, I did back Ten Hag for a very long time until these past few games. It's been really hard as a United fan, of course, but you have to look at the players that are bought in, the money that he spent. He spent above more than 600 million euros, of course. From that's what I've heard from YouTubers like Saeed and Mark Goldbridge. Of course, these players, these fan channels have mentioned this thing, of course, and I feel like they've spent a lot of money. They've done what it needs to get the right players. And look at Ten Hag's first season. He didn't have the players that he wanted. Not exactly. He had players like Casemiro, Ericsson. I believe he had Malacia on the left. He did have Varane, of course, which was bought in the previous season. But he was kind of like a new signing because he was, of course, a lot injured than he should have been. Uh, Ten Hag got Martinez as well. I mean, this was before the Ineos era. I mean, if you look at the signings that are bought, it's according to Ten Hag's Ajax team. I mean, in the current season, they've got good players, amazing players like Rasmus Højlund, Joshua Zirkzee. They've got Manuel Ugarte. They've got good academy players like Garnacho, Kobe Meno. They've got really good players. I mean, there's something really, really wrong with the implementation which is going on. And I feel like if this continues to happen, of course, it's going to be really hard on Ten Hag to keep his job. I I don't think. I mean, this is a very personal thing, of course. I think Ten Hag should be kept at the club for a little longer. I mean, maybe it's just because that I have a little bit of a Ten Hag bias, but I've grown to see this club since 2011-2012 season, of course, and I've seen a lot of changes in management, and it's not really worked out well. With the change in management, you're gonna need new players, uh, a new vision, you need new tactics and everything. Speaking about tactics, look at Ten Hag's tactics. I feel like, Ten Hag is someone who's kept tactics which is a little confusing to me. He's not playing at the big same level as Manchester City or Arsenal. Of course, he's not. I mean, you can't play at that level, not yet, because they're at a different league. They're playing the Champions League, they're competing for the title. It's really big. But when you look at the implementation, when you look at how the teams are playing, if you look at how Liverpool plays, Liverpool's new coach Arne Slot came in this season, replaced Jurgen Klopp. I I've got to be honest. I was a little skeptical on how Arne Slot is going to be able to manage a big behemoth club like Liverpool after the Jurgen Klopp success, of course. But he's managed to turn things around, and he's done really really well for Liverpool. And why is that? I feel like there's something to do with team cohesion. See, players need to be compact. They need to stick together. They need to figure out who's who, who's where, what they need to do on the pitch. In the beginning of the game, like the last few games, let's start from this first season. The of course the first match of this season was I believe it was against Fulham. 1-0. I mean, that was really really harsh. I think United could have easily gotten through by 3-0 or 4-0. Had a lot of chances. United are actually the team with the most missed chances in the entirety of the Premier League as of now. They've got a good higher XG. They've created a lot of chances, especially the forwards like Rasmus Højlund. He's not, of course, he's not been there recently because of injuries, but whenever he was there last season, he did create a lot of chances, a lot of goals. Of course, he was good. Marcus Rashford, he scored. I think he scored about 3 or 4 goals with a couple of assists, 2 or 3 assists, and Alejandro Garnacho, he's stepping up. I think he's really good. He's a youngster, uh, but Diallo as well. Diallo is also really good. He's created a lot of chances. See, let's have a look at this match, how it went. The Fulham game, 1-0, a lot of chances, barely managed to scrape that one off. A lot of missed chances, especially that Garnacho one in the 90th minute, the last one. Just lucky to get that win away with the Joshua Zirkzee goal. The Brighton game was so lucky. I mean, I don't know how United even. We were just unlucky. United were just unlucky to lose that game. It was a lot of chances. We had 1.54 xg, and then of course Brighton had a 2.54 xg. That they had more xgs, of course, but the point is we created a lot of chances. The game after that was against Liverpool. I mean, this is very controversial. Something that I would say is that the Liverpool game, we saw a lot of similarities. This is where I come to talk about Arne Slot and his tactics. So, Arne Slot, he's been playing similar and the same type of tactics which Erik Ten Hag is playing. I mean, see, this is how Ten Hag sets up his team. So, Ten Hag, he's got a team 4-2-3-1. That's his formation on paper. But how these teams play, most of these teams play, or what I've seen Pep doing, or Arteta doing, or Arne Slot, or even Ten Hag, what they'll do is they'll set up a team in a 4-3-3 tactics on paper, and then they'll set their team in a 4-2-4 off and on the ball possession. Basically, they'll have a four player mix, like a narrow wide line of the wingers and the midfielders. For United, it's like, of course, the back line of Delict, Martinez, Dalot, and Mazraoui. The midfield, it's a little mixed because the midfield isn't performing, so it keeps on changing. So I'd say it's Kobe Meno, Casemiro, and Bruno Fernandes, of course. So Fernandes, he links a little bit with Zirkzee, because Zirkzee is more of a link-up player and a 9-ish, 10-ish player. 9.5 player, you could say, or false nine. So it's Xerxes and Fernandez on the front, and Rashford and Diallo, or maybe Garnacho on the left and right. That's how they line up. They keep a narrow four, a front four, so that it becomes very difficult for the opposite team to pass through United, and it's worked out well. Sometimes it's been really fruitful, of course, but has it really worked out for Manchester United with these tactics, with these roles? No, I've got to be real honest. No, because I was very, very hopeful that these things, these players coming in would really, really work for Ten Hag. Something in the players, something between the coach and the players, it's not working, it's not clicking, it's not linking. I mean, you see players like Sancho or Ronaldo. Of course, they had a dressing room issue. I'm not going to talk about that a lot. Sancho and Ronaldo, of course, they had their different issues, but there's a lot of talks coming out here and there about Rashford not having a good relation or somebody else not having a good relation with Ten Hag or whatever. But I've got to be real honest. Ten Hag seems to be in the right mindset or in the right head to what he's doing in each club where he teaches. I mean, you look at Ajax. Ajax were, excuse me, Ajax were really good. Ajax were amazing during the time when Ten Hag managed, especially that Champions League semi-final. Of course, they were very unlucky to, lose that semi-finals. But I mean, I don't think Ten Hag is the main person to be majorly blamed for these results. It's definitely got to do with the players as well. The tactics, you can say it's not right. Maybe the players are not agreeing with whatever the tactics are, and then it just comes down to the mentality on who wants it more. Speaking of mentality, I mean, look at the players at United. I mean, they are high profile players. I mean, look at Casemiro, Rafael Varane. They were so good. They were high profile players at Real Madrid, really achieved players. You got players like Matthias de Ligt now. He's well achieved. He's done really well at Bayern. I mean, arguably done really well at Bayern. He's done really good at Juventus, of course. He's done really, really well at Ajax. I mean, you look at these players and you're just like, there's some sense of achievement coming towards that. There's every season there's a new hope for Manchester United and their fans that we're gonna win it, we're gonna do it. But that hope is just left there. I mean, there's a blueprint. Players like Joshua Zirkzee, Lenny Yoro, they've come into the club as a blueprint. I mean, you look at Lenny Yoro, he's 17 or 18. He's a person, of course, United even said that he's a person for the future. He's a player who's going to be used a lot in the next coming decade. Of course, he's a blueprint. And even Joshua Zirkzee, these guys are really good. I mean, they've got what it takes. Not now, maybe they'll take a little time, but we've got players who've got what it takes to do it now. Garnacho, Marcus Rashford, arguably Kobe Meno, and to teach players like Alejandro Garnacho and Kobe Meno, you've got players like Manu Ugarte, Casemiro. You've got so many players to teach them. I mean, there should be a clear vision. There is a vision, of course, but the implementation is just not there. Now, this is all just speculation that Ten Hag has lost the dressing room. I've said this plenty of times in the video, but this is all just, again, speculation. You can't say anything about it, but I don't think Ten Hag is going to be there as a United manager for very long, and he could be sacked by the next international break, and it's really disheartening for me because I'm someone who would like to keep Ten Hag in the United role as a manager because I've really come to a liking to him. I feel like the win that we got against Newcastle in this first season, that was a sign of good things to come. I mean, Casemiro did well that season. He won us the Carabao Cup. It was a sign of us coming back. We placed third, but then last season we underperformed in the league, underperformed in the Champions League, just didn't perform up to the mark. I don't know. I am quite speechless. This is just an opinion, but yeah, I didn't see the clear, implementation this season. Uh, Speaking of individual players, of course, I'd like to see a lot more coming from players like Diego Dalot. Dalot's passing last night was horrendous. Let me tell you. Diego Dalot. At the time of making this video, of course, the match was yesterday at 9 p.m. IST. So Diego Dalot's passing was something which was horrendous. His tracking back was not good. This is something which I spoke about recently, is that the players are exhausted. Not physically. Physically, it's, as Gary Neville said yesterday, it's nothing to do about fitness. Fitness doesn't come into play here. It's something to do with the players, individual performances, and that's them being exhausted, especially after this international break. I don't know, things haven't been clicking, things haven't been working. This is all just speculation, of course, but it doesn't seem to me that they're up to the task at United. Players like Dalot, I mean, these guys were incredible last season. I don't know what happened. Lisandro Martinez is underperforming, of course. Casemiro, Casemiro can be argued with. I mean, he's not the classic profile of player that we need. Uh, Coming to tactics, this was about the individuals. What the problem was. The tactics, all right. Ten Hag decides to play a very high line of football. Of course, the players moving up forward and running up the field, and this means that there's a huge gap in the middle, and the only one person who's going to be maintaining that gap between the defenders and the midfielders and the forwards is going to be the defensive midfielder, the holding midfielder. And United need a destroyer, someone like Ugarte. Of course, Ugarte's gotten, he's just gotten in. It's going to take time for the man to settle a little bit. But players like Casemiro, I mean, they're not that really good. I mean, why? That's because you need a good passing lane for these defensive holding midfielders. Uh, there's a lot more that needs to be said about this United team in terms of tactics, how Ten Hag has been choosing these players to play. I mean, even Liverpool plays in a very similar style like this. I've seen how they play, but yeah, this is what I can make of the entire team. And as for Ten Hag, I mean, it seems pretty dull and unlikely if he's going to be staying at United any longer. And yeah, well, that's about it for this video. And thanks for watching. And this was my opinion on why or what's happening at Manchester United. And yeah.